Yeah. So, hello everyone. Good evening, guys. Hope you are having a great day. So, today's session is about cloud computing. Everyone must have heard about cloud computing, right? But everyone is lost in the path of learning about it and applying it in creating projects. So, to make this cloud computing simpler and applying it in hackathons and projects easily, we have with us none other than Urvi Goel, who is one of the most famous speakers in India, and she will be giving us a seminar on cloud computing and its usage in hackathons and different projects. Over to you, Anubhav.
Yeah, hello guys, and hello Urvi. So before we start the session, let's have a brief introduction about Urvi, which I'll just brief about her. She is a SWE at Microsoft. She is a Flipkart GWC 3.0 scholar, and she is a co-founder at Protégé, and also an ex-intern at Apni Kaksha. So while the session is going, you guys can also raise your hand so that I can unmute you and you can ask your doubts there. Over to you, Urvi. You can start.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the lovely introduction. And I'm really excited to start this session. And I'm really thankful actually to your team to allow me to take this session on this particular topic because to be honest, we've all had enough sessions on how to get into FANG and how to prepare for the essay. So this is a very interesting topic, and I'm really excited to be talking about this. So without further ado, let me just start screen sharing if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Just give me a second. Okay. Give me a second, please. You know what? I'll just share my entire screen. So can you let me know if you confirm that my screen is visible to us?
Yeah, it's visible. Yeah.
Okay, great. So again, hi everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about cloud computing in hackathon projects. So you all, being engineering students, you all must have cloud computing as a subject as well in your second or third year. But I won't be, talking about cloud computing in those terms, the definitions and all that. I'll try to give you a more practical, practical understanding of cloud computing and how you can use that. So before I used cloud computing in one of my projects, I thought that cloud computing is something that is used by the corporations or by the companies, but actually there are ways which you can use them in your personal projects and your hackathon projects as well. And I personally have used some of these cloud computing services in my hackathon projects and have won prizes in hackathons for the same. So let's get started. Not spending too much time on my introduction. I think the organizers have already given an introduction for me, but I just want to share here that I am working in the Microsoft Azure team right now. I was a 6-month intern there. Starting this January, and now I have joined as a full-time intern in the same team. So and even before that I have been working with Azure for more than 2 years. So it's not like that I'm gonna promote Microsoft Azure here because I'm working there, but I want you all to know about cloud computing, and for some of the hands-on things I will be giving the demonstration in Azure because that's what I'm comfortable with. And I feel that Microsoft Azure is something that is, very beginner friendly. But I could be totally biased about that. So for people who are new to this concept of cloud computing, I just want to cover quickly what is cloud computing. To share it in layman terms, I would say cloud computing is when a provider offers computing services over the internet, which is the cloud. And these computing services could include an array of services, for example, storage, databases, software, infrastructure, computing, networking, and so many more. All of the things like that you can think of, they're available on cloud now. And everything, as you must have heard this, everything is moving to cloud. So if you want to imagine a real life scenario of cloud, I'm sure you all must have heard about Google Drive, and you all must have used that to share files or to upload your videos or photos or whatever. So when I upload something on Google Drive, that is actually a cloud computing platform, that is storage as a service. So Google is providing that to me up to a limit for free. And that is just one example. There are multiple other examples like Outlook. All of our emails are stored actually on cloud. The chatting apps that we have, all of those are also on our cloud computing platforms. So you will find a lot of cloud computing services around you that you use on a daily basis, and probably some of you don't even realize it. So these are some of the most common cloud providers that we have in market: Microsoft Azure, Amazon AWS, Google Cloud, and IBM Cloud. And I mean, they all are great. And the great thing about these platforms is that they provide some free credits to students. What I mean by credits is you can think of them as points, which you can use them on their cloud computing platforms to create services or resources, as we say here. So I'm not sure about IBM, but all the other three, they do give some free credits to students, which you can avail through your student ID, email ID. And I'm going to show you how you can do that later in the session as well. But before that, let me share with you why you should care about cloud computing, and why is everyone caring about cloud computing right now. So the one main reason about this is that it is inexpensive. Imagine you want to start a company, okay, a tech company, a software, maybe a software provider company or something. So you are getting some data of the users. Now that data is not just normal data, that would be big data, enormous data that you're getting. And you process that kind of data, to perform computing services on that kind of data, you need really heavy servers and with a very good processing power. So if you go and you set up your own servers, you need to have your own routers, switches, and also the experts, the hardware experts who would work on it. Instead, I can put all of this on a cloud provider, and I just have to pay for these services. So I don't even need a hardware expert on my team, because who would work on the servers and the routing and everything, because that is then handled by the cloud provider. And these are secure as well. So if there's a malware attack on my website, I don't have to worry about it if as long as it's on a cloud computing platform. So if I'm using Azure, suppose to host my service, then Azure is responsible for ensuring all the security protocols are in place. Also, cloud computing makes things accessible anywhere. One example, obviously, like we saw, Google Drive. So I don't have to worry about setting up servers in the place where I need wherever my customers are. I can just The cloud provider ensures that it is reachable everywhere, and these provide high performance. And one main reason why everything is moving to cloud is because it is very easy to scale. For example, again, you have a company and you have a website, okay, and suddenly and suppose that website is making an API call to some storage, some database. Now, suppose one day you have an influx of users, you have a lot of users on that day. Now, SQL queries will increase, and that might, that will create a lot of load on your service and might even, shut down. So in that case, what you'll have to do, you'll have to allocate, you'll have to put up more servers, and the next day, maybe if the traffic again reduces, you'll have to then those extra servers that you've put up, their waste, right? So cloud providers make it very easy to scale up or scale down. You can just allocate more resources to your service as and when you need it, and then deallocate those resources when you don't need it. And you can go pay as you go. For example, whatever resources you are using, suppose today I'm using 5 resources, I have to pay for 5. If tomorrow I'm using 3, then I have to pay for 3. So that way it makes it inexpensive and easy to scale. And why you should care as students about cloud computing is because most companies are using cloud right now. So if you want to go and work as a developer in any company, any tech-based company, they all are using cloud. I can't think of any company who's not using cloud at this time. So it would be a really good skill that you can have before joining. And I see that people who join, they a lot of times they're clueless about cloud computing services, majorly because no one studies cloud computing in college. Even I didn't. So, but it's important that you have like a practical understanding of it. And obviously you can use these cloud computing services in your personal projects and hackathon projects to your advantage as well. And that's what the rest of the session will be about. So these are some of the services that just examples of services that I have used in my projects, and which you can probably use as well. So app service is something that allows you to host your app on the cloud, and it's very very easy. We're gonna do this right now. I'm gonna show you how easy this is. You can create virtual machines. So right now I'm working on Mac OS, and I have some software that can only run on Linux. So I can easily in just a couple of minutes I can create a virtual machine, an Ubuntu virtual machine, and do whatever computing I require there. Then database storage account, obviously you can use these in your projects to store your data online. And Azure bot. So this is something which I have used in my hackathon project, like which also made me won the hackathon project. So this is also very interesting, and it's very easy to make a bot which would act actually converse with you through these computing services. So before I move forward, I'll just take a few minutes, like if anyone has any doubts. And after that, I want to give you, an introduction to Azure portal and like how you can get free credits as a student, and then some of the services that you can create there. So if anyone has any doubts so far, please feel free to ask.
Anyone having doubts may please raise their hand and we'll unmute them. Yeah. So Tejesh Kumar. Yeah, Tejesh, you can speak now.
Good evening. Good
Yeah,
evening, ma'am.
hi. Yeah.
Ma'am, it's just a silly question, but I want to ask that what is computing actually?
Computing. Okay. So you know that the word computer comes from computing. Computing is basically doing any, operation, like which can include a mathematical operations. So computers initially they were made to do all of these complex mathematical calculations, and that's where the word computer came from. So that's what we're doing here. It's called cloud computing because we can do all sorts of computing on cloud. That means, for example, I have a database, okay, on cloud. I have a storage database on Azure. I can make SQL queries to it from my app directly, and that is a sort of computing only, right? Because I am directly running those SQL queries on my database, which is on cloud. So that's one example, and there are many more. For example, you can get logs from there. So for example, suppose I create a bot and I log all of its interactions into on my Azure, and from there I can create sort of rules which will, whenever I see that maybe it's not it maybe the bot cannot give a response to some particular question, I can create those rules which will directly flag those kind of questions and do that. This is what I mean by computing, all of these operations, those complex operations which we can do directly on cloud, not on your local laptop. You can do that on cloud, so that means it is accessible anywhere. Does that answer your
Thank you,
question?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Good.
Any more questions? Please raise your hand. Oh yeah. So we have another Arun and he has the question. So you can unmute now and ask the question.
Hi, ma'am. My question was based on the concept of security when it comes to cloud computing, because I read this article a couple of months ago that said it was much more difficult to track hackers or track the source that sort of hacked or leaked your data when it comes to cloud computing. How do companies try to reduce that risk when it comes to cloud computing?
Okay. Great question. So, what happens is, I'll show you on the portal, Azure portal, also this. So, whatever service that you are trying to create. So, for example, I have a storage account. Okay, I have my database there on cloud, and I want to. And how does Azure make sure that no other person can access my database? Only my app, which I have authorized to access my database, only that can access. So, for that, they have, some identities, we call them managed identities in place, which we basically are giving roles to our app service that, okay, this app has the role to read from database. and then some other app maybe has access to write to this database. So that way we can make sure that only whatever service is authorized to do so can access, and we can even define the role, that whether it should have a read role or a write role, or there are a number of couple other roles as well. Then apart from this, you know, they also make sure that so what we do is we have our resources. So for example, we have a virtual machine. A virtual machine, what I can do is it will only have a private IP and not a public IP. So again, that is making sure that it is safe from attacks. And I mean, this is just like I'm giving you examples that I can think of on top of my head, how these cloud providers ensure security. They have a number of other principles and policies in place that ensure this. So even if there is a virtual machine, they have some default rules for that virtual machine. Some, they call it outbound rules and inbound rules, that what all IP addresses, from where which IP addresses and from which port can access this virtual machine, and which IP addresses on which port can this VM access which IP addresses this VM can access. So they have these default rules that we can, again, we can change, but they have them in place by default. Also, they have JIT access. If you've heard of it, just-in-time access, which basically gives you access to a particular resource for a small amount of time. So, I'm assuming that you are aware of all of these security principles. So a lot of them, they are, put in place by the cloud provider itself. And if there is some resource that we want to be extra secure about, then they have, other ways as well. For example, the managed identity parts. If you don't want any app to directly access the database, we can do that through a managed identity. It's like a key and lock. So my app service will have the key, and if it has the key, it will open the lock, and if that happens, only then it will be able to access the database. So it's an interesting question. I can go on about it. So but I hope you get the idea, and you can definitely read up more about it.
I understood, ma'am. Thank you.
Sure. I think in interest of time, should we move ahead, or do we have more questions?
Yeah. Anyone? Any doubt? Or we can resume the session. I think maybe there is no more doubt. You can start.
Okay. So so what you have to do is, I'm sure you all must have gotten your email IDs, your college email IDs. So what you have to do is just go Azure for students, and the first website that you see. So you click on Start Free. Now I have already signed up here with my ID. You'll see just right here. Yeah, my college hasn't disabled my college ID yet, thankfully. So with your college ID, you can just sign up. Like, first create a Microsoft account with your college ID, and then sign in through that college ID. They'll do email verification, and then you'll be able to access this. And they give you some credits for it. I can't see this site, can't see it here, but I think they give some $100 worth of credits for free to students. So this is what the Azure portal looks like. And to give you a basic overview of the Azure portal, so this Azure portal, Azure basically has concept of subscriptions and resource groups. Okay, So what happens is you have a subscription. Then inside the subscription, you will have some resource groups, and then inside those resource group, you will create a resource. So resource group is basically a group of similar resources, and you can have multiple resource groups within a subscription. So you can what companies do is that they have one subscription for maybe one area, and then another subscription for another area, and so on. So this account, this like Azure for Students will give you like a free subscription, this Azure for Students subscription, and then inside this you'll see there are some resource groups that were created by default for me, and inside these default these resource groups have created some resources. Okay. So I want to like show a very like basic app service resource to you, and like I just want to. There are a number of resources. Even if I tried, even if I took the whole day, I wouldn't be able to show all of the resources to you. But I just want to want you to know how easy this is creating resources with cloud. So we'll create a simple app service. So what we'll do is I have a basic React app that I have created here. Okay. Okay, I closed it. Just a second. And React app. So very basic React app I have created, and I've just like changed this one line here. Okay, and I have added this project to my GitHub. All right. So if you want to see, like we'll be able to like this, if I run from here, you can obviously run it on your local host, but now I want to host it somewhere so that it is accessible from anywhere. Okay, so how can I do that? So okay, so this is my GitHub, and this is where I have uploaded my project. So this is what the portal looks like when you go ahead and create a resource. Now what happens is that at first you'll feel like there's so many columns that you need to fill, and so many options, so it might maybe look a little overwhelming, but Microsoft has amazing documentation for all of the resources, so you can like easily follow any one of them. So subscription, I only have one subscription. Resource group, I'll just choose any resource group, or you can create a new resource group as well. We'll give a name to our React app, testing or React app. Okay, and this is what our domain would look like: testingreactapp.azurewebsites.net. Okay, and so we have a React. So I'll just say Node 14. You can select the region as Central India, and good. So if you don't get any of these, options what to fill in that option, just like follow documentation, and you will be good to go. Okay, so I'll just hit a create here, and this will take a couple of minutes to create my resource. Now from this resource, what I'll do is I'll upload my GitHub repo and deploy here. Okay, and you'll see that just in a minute, and it's very easy and very straightforward. So for every resource also, like I created this app service here. There are some resources that are created by default, so you don't have to worry about them. This is our app service. You go to deployment center and just a second. Okay. So I want my code source, like the number of options from where you can get your code source. I'll select GitHub here. And I've already connected to my GitHub. So you'll have to authorize GitHub on your Azure. And from here, it will, ask me to just select which repository I want and which branch I want. Okay. And I'll just click on save. So this automatically will set up a deployment. And this is basically a GitHub action. So we'll be able to see this on GitHub as well. In the logs, you can go and see where your deployment is. And this is, what the deployment looks like on your repo in GitHub. If you go to actions, you'll be able to see that there as well. So this is building my project right now. And once it's built, it will deploy it. So this will, I think, take some 40 minutes. So we're not going to wait for it. But I already had I already have app service created here, and I had deployed the same repo here. So I'm just going to show you. Okay, yeah. So I've already, deployed my React app to this app service. And if we go to this URL, we should be able to see our React app here. I hope this works. Okay, this is taking some time to load. Meanwhile, I can talk about some other resources here. So we can also create virtual machines. And I have created a virtual machine already here. So this was also pretty straightforward. You just have to give the name and some settings, which you can learn from the documentation. And there are 3 ways to connect to this VM. You can use RDP, or you can SSH into it, or you can use Bastion. So this is the username that I've given to my VM, Ubuntu. And this is the public IP address. Okay. If I wanted, I could, not have a public IP for my VM if I wanted, for security reasons. And you see, to improve security, enable just-in-time access. So I can do that as well if I want even more security for my services, for my virtual machine. If you go to networking, you will see, some inbound rules and some outbound rules, as I was talking about, which will, ensure that where all this, traffic is coming from or going from the VM, that is restricted. Okay. So I can show you this. So what we can do is using, when you create the VM, you get the option of, creating it with an SSH key or a password. So I've created this with the help of a password. And if I open my terminal and I copy paste here, so I'm authenticating it using password, not private key. So I can delete it. I'll just have to write SSH, Ubuntu, and the public address. And now it is asking for my password that I gave at the time of creating the VM. So you see, I'm sorry, this is really small font, but I hope you're able to see this. So you see Ubuntu 20. This is my Linux. I have SSH'd into my Linux VM here. Okay. Yeah. So like, I mean, it's that easy. And to create this resource, it took me a couple of minutes only. But in the interest of time, I'm not doing it in front of you. And yeah, you can see the React app as well up here on this domain. And in like 40 minutes, you'll be able to see on this domain as well, which we just created. Okay. Apart from this, I won't take much time. Just want to show you a couple of things more. So storage account, okay. Storage account is something that you can really use in your college projects or your hackathon projects. So if you create a storage account on Azure, it will have 4 types of data storage: containers, file shares, queues, and tables. Okay, tables are your what SQL tables that you have, and then you can create SQL queries on top of these on the tables here. Then file shares will allow you to share, if you want to share any file online, if you want to upload any file and you want that to be accessible from your app, you can do that using file sharing. So file share and tables, that's something that like I have used personally, and it's actually really easy to use. And one last thing that I want to mention, the bot that I was talking about. Okay, so if you go to Microsoft training, okay, yeah, Microsoft training modules, and shared this with you all. Here you can see a number of modules that you can work with. And here is a module for creating a bot with the bot framework composer on Azure. And in like this will have an exercise, and will have like a demo lab for you. So you can launch this lab. I've launched it over here. Okay, it's expired, but so you can do these lab, which will have like all of the setup ready for you, and will basically help you understand how to make that resource, create that resource step by step. It will give you like a step by step demo of the thing, and you can like do it together with it. Okay, this is taking some time to load, but yeah, it's really that easy. And yeah, there are so many more resources that I haven't mentioned here, because like I haven't used them personally, but like I would highly encourage you all to go and look out for all these resources, search for these resources, and if you have any particular use case, and see if you can find any resource for that online, which will like help make your work really easy. So that's all from my side. If Anubhav, if you can allow me to put in the chat something, I'll just copy paste the link for the training modules. And yeah, that's all from my side. I give the rest of the time for any questions that you all have. Thank you.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, you guys can ask your questions. And you can just raise your hand. I can unmute you. Yeah, we got one now from Vibhudatta Patnaik. Yeah, you can speak.
Good evening, ma'am. Hello.
Hi.
Good evening, ma'am. Ma'am, basically, what is the difference between network and cloud-based storage?
Network and cloud-based storage. What do you mean by network? Like, which network are you referring to here?
And basically, when we in ma'am, networking and regarding this.
Networking, I mean, that's a different concept altogether. Networking is basically how, that includes the concepts of how things are being transmitted from one place to another, and it includes all of these protocols, TCP, UDP, and many other protocols that they have. And that includes basically how things are going from one place to another. Cloud computing, I mean, that's a completely different thing. And networking is involved in cloud computing. So if you want to if you want to establish a network, suppose in your college, you'll have to have routers. You need routers, you need switches, you need wires and all that. um, you can do that on top of cloud, because then all of these things belong to the cloud provider, and you just have to pull up some resources on that, and you can mention that this is a particular network, and you can connect your computers or your resources to that particular network. So there, so you get it right. You don't have to put the infrastructure anywhere for the routing. You don't have to have ESGs and DNATing, SNATing. All of this is done on top of Azure. You don't need to have hosts or anything for this of your own. So that's how you do networking on cloud.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks.
So, Urvi, I have a question from my side.
Sure.
So, yeah, so currently when we do hackathon projects or something, so we usually deploy it in GitHub or in the Netlify Expert.
Mhm.
So, using cloud at this stage for hackathons, so how it would be more helpful for like a small level,
I mean,
low level projects?
those are sure some options, but what cloud does that for you when you host it there is it gives you a lot of more options. So for example, if you've deployed your code on Azure, then it will give you like options like authentication and application insights, from which you can directly get all of the insights on whatever traffic that you're receiving on your app. Then there's also managed identity, like I said, which you can give to your web app, so that only the resources that are authorized can access that web app. um, there's also options for custom domains and all, but that part is paid. But networking, scaling up, scaling down, all of these things, I think if you do it on cloud, if you deploy on cloud, you just get more options there, and you can if you have need for all of those options, then it's a good idea to deploy on cloud.
Yeah, see, thanks for the clarification.
Sure.
So, guys, do you have any doubts, or we can wrap up this session? Mm, yeah, so don't think anyone has any more doubts. So Urvi was pretty clear in explaining about the cloud computing and how to use it in projects. So thank you, Urvi, once again for this wonderful session.
Thank you so
And
much for having me, and I really enjoyed taking session on this topic.
thank you. Hope we have another great session sometime sooner. Yeah.
Sure, and all the best for all of the attendees of the hackathon. I hope you do something really exciting and unique. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Urvi, for joining. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.